your questions, and your questions, you can write them down and we'll take them at the end.
So sorry, but we'll be glad to take questions later, and I don't want to take up time for the rest of the program.
Our next talk is Swami Atmarupananda, Atman, Self and Not Self.
I'd like to start off where Swamiji left off. This whole idea that we are clowns stumbling in a circus ring, or we are already illumined, we are one with God, and yet we're playing a role. This is actually one of the philosophies in India, a spiritual philosophy called Kashmiri Shaivism. You see, in Advaita Vedanta, what is the problem? As I said, the problem is ignorance. We do not know what we are. And this ignorance, the name will be given Maya. Because of Maya, we are in this situation. We do not know real nature. And by coming to lots of retreats like this, eventually one day we will break through Maya to realize that we are Brahman, and that's the solution. Kashmiri Shaivism, it says, no. Your real nature is Shiva. Parashiva, they call it, the supreme, transcendent Shiva. Your real nature is Shiva. Even they say you are Shiva. How can Maya trap Shiva? The sun may be as well in darkness. It's impossible. You are here in this form and going through this process because Shiva wants it to be like that. You want it to be like that. The moment you do not want it to be like that, it will change immediately. Everything is happening because we want it that way. So no, I want enlightenment. Yes, now Shiva wants enlightenment. So now Shiva is playing at being a spiritual seeker. No, I don't want to be a spiritual seeker. I want to be enlightened. And you are in the role of wanting to be enlightened. The day you really, really want to be enlightened, you will be enlightened immediately. Because what can stop you? So it's a very beautiful philosophy. It reminds me of Alan Watts, who was in the Bay Area in the 1960s, 70s. He was very popular. He mixed Vedanta and Zen Buddhism, and he used to give talks, of course, way before my time. But I came across his book, which is helpfully titled The Book. The name of the book is The Book, so you can't forget it. You go on Amazon and search it. I guess at one time it used to be very popular, now not so much, but it's a very beautiful book, The Book. It's called The Book, The Taboo Against Knowing Who You Are. That's the name of the book. It's a very, very slim volume. And it starts with a story. Exactly what Swamiji was saying. The story is, in the beginning God alone existed, from eternity to eternity. Now existing from eternity to eternity can be a bit of a drag. It can get boring pretty fast. So God got bored. God wanted to play. But where does God have friends to play with? There are no friends. Only God exists. Nothing else does. So God thought about this problem for a long time. Because God is God, He is awfully smart. See, the whole story is written for children, but it makes so much sense for us. Because God is God, He is awfully smart. So He came to a solution. Where will He get somebody to play with? And God pretended to be not God. Now there are two. God and God pretending to be not God. Now God has somebody to play with. But the thing is, God is awfully good, because He's God. God is awfully good at what He does. So when He pretended to be not God, He did such a good job of it, He totally forgot that He was God. And now God is searching for God, trying to find out who am I? And that is life. What a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story. I mean, that's exactly what Swamiji was saying. Now, how do we do it? What is the process in Advaita Vedanta? Kashmiri Shaivism, by the way, it's a magnificent philosophy, much more complex than Advaita Vedanta. In fact, Ayan he called it a Baroque philosophy, very intricate and very detailed. It's interesting, the question of whether enlightenment is instantaneous or it takes time. Look at the way they answer it. I'm a little diverted from my topic, but look at the way they answer it. They talk about 4 ways in Kashmiri Shaivism. 4 ways. The first way is 4 ways or 4 upayas. The first way is called anupaya, the no way. No way not in the American sense, no way it won't work, no, not in that sense. It's not a way, it's not a fact. Where you are spontaneously, directly awakened. How? No how about it. You just awaken. It is possible, because if you are Shiva, why would you not suddenly come to a realization of your real nature? And it does happen actually. Ramana Maharshi is a classic example. Once in a while, every now and then, in every generation or every age, you have one or few such enlightened people. The problem with this way is it's fantastic, but you can't wait for it to happen. What will you do? There's no way to make this happen. It's called anupaya. Upaya means way, no way. The next level, step down, it's called Shambhava Upaya. The way, Shambhu is another name of Shiva in Sanskrit. So the way of Shiva. And that's pretty close to Advaita Vedanta. I say it's pretty close to Advaita Vedanta, but actually experts of Kashmiri Shaivism would say, no, Advaita is even lower than this. But it's a direct realization. In a flash, directly you realize your Shiva nature after the instruction from the teacher. You have the instruction from the teacher, and the instruction functions like a mirror. Like we see our face in a mirror, this book will function like a mirror. It will show you your real nature, and you instinctively say, that's what I am, and you're enlightened. That does not work. Suppose you try that, that does not work. Then one step lower, Shakta Upaya, the way of Shakti, where meditation techniques are introduced, mantra is introduced, the whole science of japa, the science of language and mantra shastra is introduced, very complex. Those things are not there in Advaita Vedanta. You don't go there. And it takes time, it's a little more complicated, it takes a lot of effort, and then you can come to enlightenment. If even that does not work, then there's the fourth stage, it's called Anva Upaya. Anu means atom. Atom, for them, the individual sentient being, we are called the individual, like atoms, tiny, contracted. So, an upaya based on our body-mind. So, sitting, breathing, meditation, there are different kinds of pujas, rituals, even up to the external icons and pictures. So 4 stages. No way, direct. If we could only be so lucky. Then the way of Shiva, the way of Shakti, and finally the way of Jiva, Anva us. Now Advaita Vedanta, you are that, or I am Brahman. And in Advaita Vedanta, this realization takes 2 steps. I'd like to call it the 2 steps to the not to. Advaita literally means not to. That you are not apart from the Absolute. But to get to the not to, there are 2 steps. And the first step is finding out who or what I am. The distinction between self and not self. Why would you do that? Because the problem starts there. We have taken what is not ourselves to be ourselves. Advaita Vedanta says you are not the body and not the mind, and we take the body and mind to be ourselves. And what we are, we have completely forgotten. So, first the effort has to be directed inwards at ourselves to discern what we think we are. I was just thinking about Descartes. Notice, he came pretty close, at least intellectually when he was analyzing. Maybe the world is an illusion, the body itself can be doubted. Even at the level of the mind, it can be doubted, but I cannot doubt that I am experiencing thoughts. That's much. If I am experiencing a doubt, that I cannot doubt. I always think the problem was, he stopped there. Why did he stop there? Because what did he do next? From there he came back outside again. How do I justify this entire world now? And so from there he says that, well, God exists and God would not deceive me. And so all of that he comes back to the world of science and matter. And he does not persist with that. Today we will persist with that. Go deeper to the ultimate. Now in this book, Aparoksha Anubhuti. The word is interesting, the title, Aparoksha. Anubhuti means experience. Anubhuti means experience. Now experience can be of different types. One is pratyaksha. In Sanskrit, pratyaksha literally means sense perception. Perception. You're seeing, this is pratyaksha. You hear, this is pratyaksha. Touch and smell and taste, pratyaksha. That which is presented directly to our senses. That's one kind of experience, one kind of anubhuti. There's another kind of experience, that which is not directly present to our senses, but which we, for example, read about, hear about, something which is not directly presented to me. We hear about it, read about it, maybe believe it. So our science, and quite amazingly, religion, most of religion and most of science is like that. Science is inferential knowledge based on data. You gather data with your senses, with instruments, and you have hypotheses, you test it, finally come to an understanding. You're not directly seeing atoms or quarks, but it's based on data, inferred knowledge, on a process, a scientific process. But religion also, God and heaven and after death this will happen. How do I know that? Based on reading a book. I don't see it exactly, right? At least not now. So, most of our knowledge is what is called paroksha. Paroksha means beyond your senses. That is not directly present to our senses. That is the second kind of knowledge. And this basically encompasses our experience of our life. Pratyaksha, sense experience, paroksha, beyond senses. And a lot of our knowledge, our day-to-day life, our quotidian life, and our scientific life, and our belief systems, everything, opinions, all of that is within this. There's a third thing which Shankaracharya here. By the way, we say that it's Shankaracharya's book, scholars might doubt it, they may say that it's not Adi Shankaracharya, but whatever it is, if it's one of the later Shankaracharyas also, there's no doubt that this book has a very important place in the Advaita tradition, so that's not a problem. There's a third kind of experience which Shankaracharya is talking about. Aparoksha. Paroksha, beyond our senses. So what you're going to talk about is not beyond our senses. Aparoksha means not beyond your senses. So is it sense knowledge? That I am Brahman, my enlightenment? No. It's not sense knowledge. It's not beyond the senses either. It's not something that will come under these two. It's in fact much more certain than the other two kinds of experience. It is rather the foundation of all experiences. That's the meaning of aparoksha anubhuti. If you translate it, it will mean direct realization or direct experience. A more precise translation would be non-indirect experience. Direct experience, but like literally aparoksha means not indirect experience. So that's it. Now how do we go about it? 2 steps to not do. First step is to find out who am I. Atma, Anatma, Viveka. Viveka means to separate, to discern self from not self. Why? Because the problem is you're mixed up the self and the not self. How do you do that? I will not go through it verse by verse because it will take too long. Verses 17 to 39 in this book, 17 to 39, they go through this process. Step by step. How do we go through this process? What is the methodology of studying it using the text? 3 steps. One is, first listen carefully. You may say, duh, that's simple. Obviously you listen, but you will be surprised how many people do not listen. So I should be able to say what the text says, what the teacher said, at least in my own words. Traditional teachers would make us memorize. Won't do that, but what is the essence of it? What are they saying? Second, so what was said? Step 1. Step 2, do I understand it? Do I understand it? Step 2, do I get it in my intellect? Intellectually, do I get it? Do I understand it? Do I grasp what has been said? Third step, is it real? Is it real? Or is it just theory? And Advaita Vedanta says, if you properly follow the steps, 1, 2, 3, you will always end up by saying, it's real. When you start at the level of the body, it's real, obviously. Start at the level of the mind, real. But when you come to I am Brahman, it will also be immediately, it's real. If it does not feel real, important, it does not feel real, it does not feel, no, I don't think I am enlightened yet. If you don't think that, go back to the earlier step, the step of understanding. As we have said again and again, intellectual understanding is not enlightenment. But what is the relationship? I'll tell you, there's a beautiful relationship. The relationship in Advaita Vedanta is this. Enlightenment is a deepening of that intellectual understanding. What is this deepening? Intellectual understanding is I get you. I get the text. Good. What is enlightenment? It's real. What I got, I see for a fact. That is enlightenment. Alright. Now we shall apply this. From verses 17 to 39, many methods are given. All these methods are to be used in this way. What did they say? Do I get it? Is it real? We'll take up 3 methods. If time permits, 5 methods, but very fast. The first method I'll take time, and then the others will go through quickly. They all lead you to the same thing. I am not the body, not the mind. I am the unchanging witness consciousness as a fact. How do we do that? The first method is the method of the seer and the seen. One of my favorites, Drigdrishya. There's a whole book about it called Drigdrishya Viveka, the discernment of the seer and the seen. Seer in the sense of the experiencer. What does it say? The seer and the seen cannot be the same thing. They must be distinct entities. You are seeing this book in my hand. Clearly the eyes which are seeing the book, the eyes are separate from the book. In fact, the eyes which see things, they can see things, only things which are separate from the eyes. Only things which are at a distance from the eyes. I mean, the first things, if you have glasses, like Swami was saying, the first things the eyes will see are not the eyes themselves, they'll see the glasses. Through the glasses, something else. The eyes can never see themselves. You say, no, I can see it in a mirror. You can see a reflection of your eyes in a mirror. You can see a picture of your eyes in a selfie. But the way the eyes see this book, in that way they cannot turn around and see themselves. It's impossible. It's physically impossible. Somebody said, no, there are animals which have eyes on a stalk. So that stalk can turn around like this. You're right. But notice, even there, one stalk can turn around and see the eyes on the other stalk. But that stalk with the eye there, it cannot see itself. Clearly it cannot. So, the seer and the seen are different. Now notice, here is a book, and your eyes are seeing it, which is the seer in a very simple, naive way. The eyes are the seer and the book is the seen. Clearly different. Now consider the eyes themselves. You can experiment. Open the eyes, close the eyes. Were you aware of it? Did you experience it? Seeing now is metaphorical. You're not actually seeing it, but you feel it, you know it. So the eyes themselves now become the seen or experienced. Eyes are open, eyes are closed, I need glasses. These are things I know about my eyes. Who is knowing? What is knowing? We'll say the mind. It's in my mind. My mind, my intellect, my understanding of my eyes, I've got that. Clearly, the seer and the seen are again different. The eyes are different from the mind. Nobody doubts this. The mind, whatever it is not the eyes. The eyes are here. They are an organ and they have certain structure. That's not the mind. The mind knows it. The mind is now the seer and the eyes are the seen. What about the world? Still the seen. Word is still the seen. The eye, which was the seer of the world, in a very naive, simple way, that has now become an object, seen. The mind is the seer. Go one step further, deeper. The mind itself, are we aware of the mind? Yes, I'm aware of the mind. A thought comes in the mind. So is it seen? Is it experienced? There's a whole word for it, introspection. Look into the contents of your mind. Our thoughts in the mind. You think a thought, you say, I try to think a thought, mind is so mischievous. All the time, you try to stop the thought, it will fill up thoughts. If you tell the mind, please think a thought, Swami wants me to think a thought, the mind will go blank. But notice something, even the blankness is seen. It's an experience. So, the mind is seen, and here we have a remarkable discovery. If the mind is seen within quotes, are you with me? The mind is seen. Mind is experienced, let's say. If the mind is being experienced, I mean nothing more than that we know the states of our own mind. If there is happiness, I know that I'm happy. If there is misery, I know that I'm miserable. If those are experienced, then the mind is the seen, and you, whatever you are, whatever I am the seer of the mind. Seer and seen, they must be different. They must be different. Somebody said to a teacher in the Himalayas, This works nicely in Hindi. So no, it's not different. See, happy, I am happy. And then sadness is there, I am sad. I changed. So sometimes I'm happy, sometimes I'm sad. It's not that I am separate from my mind and the mind was happy at one time and the mind was sad at one time. Sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm happy. That's how I normally think. And the teacher said in Hindi, kabhi gau, kabhi gadha. Sometimes you are a donkey, sometimes you are a cow. That's not possible. If you are the same person, we all agree we are the same. From time to one point further. If I am the same person, then I am the person who experienced happiness. I am the person who experienced misery. And the misery and happiness are not permanently tied to me. Otherwise I would be permanently happy or permanently miserable. Right? I was reading about some of the wonderful discoveries in neuroscience. Cure for depression. There was a big article on that. They have a little pump to release certain neurochemicals in the brain, and it's a chip-operated device, and they can dial it, set it up, and they will calibrate. So they're trying it out on patients of chronic depression, and they will dial it up to the point where you feel, I feel nice now. Neurochemicals are working, and then little more, I feel really great, and maximum, and the person is like the perpetual party. And then they get a good point for that person. And they said the one lady, elderly lady, she was given this, and she said, doctor, keep it there. The doctor scolded her very much. This is not good for you. But the Vedantin would say, notice how much of an object it is, even the feeling of happiness. It's clearly related to the brain, to chemicals, and now to this device which you can grade up and down. And what are you which experiences these varieties of feelings? Now you can push it up from 0 to 10. Then are you that 0 to 10? Or are you the experiencer of that? How is it different from the thermostat here? You can push it from 70 to 80. Does that make you the thermostat? No. Clearly it's an object. The same thing we can do with our internal environment. Just as we do external, internal is an object. Now notice certain factors. You are the seer of the mind. And Vedanta says that is the real seer. Why is that the real seer? Why will you stop there? Because it can never be seen. Drigeva natu drishyate. That ultimate seer which you are, which I am, it can never be an object. Just as the eye cannot see itself, that can never objectify itself. That which can never be the object is ever the subject, never the seen, ever the seer. There you have to stop. There is no other way of going any further, either logically or in experience. That which I am, that seer, notice, the seen are many. There are so many people. Same eyes see so many people. Same consciousness, many objects. Seer one, seen many. Again, seer same and the seen are changing. You saw the freeway, then you saw the ashram, now you see the hall and the Swami, then you will see the lunch and hopefully taste it too. And so the seen keeps changing. The seer is unchanged. You say, is that dogma? No. If the seer changes, is there any way of experiencing that? If you're talking about the change in the seer, the moment you experience, I know some of you know where I'm leading with this, the moment you experience it, it becomes the seen. It's no longer the seer. Logically, it's impossible for the seer to change. Unchanging, separate, one seer, that is called the Atma, the self. The real self. Right now, right here. Apply it. What did he say? Do I get it? Is it real? Now you will see, after some time you will see, yes, I get what you're trying to say. Then you say, no, it's not real, it's still theoretical. Then ask yourself, at what point does it become theoretical? For example, you are seeing the book. You're seeing the book? Real or theoretical? You're not very confident. It's not a trick question. There are no grades for getting it right. Real, yeah, just say it. Yes, I can see the book. Yes, you should say, get on with it. Blink your eyes. Eyes are open, eyes are closed. Did you experience that? I am the seer of my eyes. That means knower of my eyes. Real or theoretical? Real. The thought, my eyes were closed, my eyes were open. This thought. Are you experiencing a thought?
Yes.
The thought is real or theoretical? Real. It's a thought. We have thoughts. Then there must be something which is experiencing that thought. Think about it. This is called getting it. Now if you can stabilize yourself in that something, that becomes making it real. Just as it's real that here is a body, this is real that I have thoughts, it's real that I am the witness of the body and mind. Yeah. This is called seer and seen. I'm just putting it to you in a capsule, but to explain it properly takes about 10 lectures, about 10 hours or so. And it's all online, you can see the Drigdrishya Viveka. It's called Introduction to Vedanta in about 12 lectures in the Vedanta Society of Southern California. It's there. One method. Another method, there are at least 7 or 8 methods here in this book, in verses 17 to 39. Let me quickly run you through 2 more methods. Another method is like seer and seen, but more subtle and a very beautiful method. It is sentient and insentient. Conscious and not conscious. Very much like seer and seen, but a beautiful variation on that. What does it mean? All the time when we experience things in the world, we not only experience as I am the experiencer and that is the experience, that is seer and seen, but always I am conscious. I am aware. And that which is experienced is not aware. I am aware of it. So awareness is on which side? On my side. I am the one who is aware. Right now also. So if you use this technique, you will realize what you really are. For example, try it now. Not seer and seen. Who is aware and what you are aware of? Look at this book. I'm not asking who is seer and seen. Are you aware of this book? Alright, that is seer and seen. On which side is awareness? Here or there? On my side. You say, yeah, proudly someone saying, I'm aware. Oh, good. Now look at the body. Aware of the body. Which side? Where is awareness? On my side or on body's side? The psychologist Greg Good, who is in New York, he gave a beautiful experiment. He says, stare at your hand. Now ask yourself the question, am I aware of the hand or is the hand aware of me? Is the hand saying, hello, we haven't done this for a long time? That would be creepy. Clearly, I am aware of the hand. It's a thing. I am aware of the hand. It's a biological thing. I am aware of the hand. This is so. Try it with the other hand. I am aware of this hand. So, exactly as I am aware of this hand and that hand, in the same way I am aware of my feet and my tummy and my chest and my head and all the parts of my body. And if the doctor puts probes inside and shows me a picture, I am aware of the internal parts of my body. It's a thing. It's something I am aware of. Awareness is on my side, whatever I am, not on the body's side. The body is not aware of me. I am aware of the body. A doctor from Edinburgh recently, he wrote an email. He said, for the last 30 years I have been examining scans of my patients. I think he's an oncologist or something like that. And he said, for the first time I had an epiphany that I am looking at a scene. I am not looking at the patient. The patient is a conscious, sentient being which has nothing really to do with this thing. Maybe inhabiting it for some time. When I look at my body, it's a thing. It's a thing. I am not it. I'm involved with it in some way. But I am not limited to it. Its beginning is not my beginning. Its end, its death is not my death. It's an incident, a blip in my existence. He wrote that. And he said it's just an epiphany which came to him by looking at thousands of scans over years. Suddenly it clicked. I've been looking at things, not at the conscious being. Consciousness is on your side, not on the body's side. Now even more interesting. Thought. This is where consciousness studies and this parts ways. Because consciousness studies thinks that what is conscious? After all, mind is conscious. Our perceptions are conscious. Our actions are conscious. But it says, the Vedanta says, take a look at a thought. Think a thought. Any thought. You are free to do so. Just a simple one. Let me suggest A, B, C, D. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, 2 plus 2 is 4. Think 2 plus 2 is 4. Right now, try it. 2 plus 2 is 4. Ask the question, am I aware of 2 plus 2 is 4, or is 2 plus 2 4 aware of me? You are laughing. Exactly. The second question is 2 plus 2 4. Is the thought aware of me, the thinker? No. The thought by itself is like some mental thought. That's all it is. It has absolutely no awareness. You are shining upon it. You are sentient. The thought is not sentient. You are conscious of the thought. The thought is can in no way be conscious of you, whatever you are. This is the method of conscious, not conscious. Chit Jara. Very subtle, but very elegant and powerful. Take it in those steps. What did he say? Do I get it? Then try it out on yourself. Does it become real? If it's not real, it won't be to begin with. Which point does it stop being real? Another one, third one, a simple one. The changing and the non-changing. Over time, it's an intuitive feeling we have got. The body has changed so much. From babyhood to childhood to teenage to middle age to a senior person's body, changed so much. And I am the one who has to say, I was that baby. I was in that body. I was in the child's body. I am in the middle-aged person's body. I am in the senior person's body. I experience all tremendously changing bodies. And if I am the body, which body am I? Does this question make sense to you? Which body am I? You say all of them, that's an easy answer. Not really. All of them? I'm a collection of contradictories? No. Changing and unchanging. Does the mind change? You say, oh boy, does it change. From morning till now, how many times sleepy and fresh and irritated and delighted and curious and bored? One day or half a day. This morning till now. How many times the mind has changed? Are you different persons because the mind has changed? What a ridiculous statement, Swami. I'm the same person. It's just that the mind which has changed. If the mind has changed and you are the same person, then you can't be the mind. If you're literally the mind, you would have said, I have changed. Yes, you get it. Yes, it's funny when you think about it that way. If it's literally the mind, then I have to claim that I have changed 1,000 times since the morning. I have not. It's a thing which has changed. So, changing and unchanging, eternal, non-eternal, changing and unchanging, savikara, nirvikara, or nitya, anitya, whichever way you put it. These are three. There are more, many more. I'll read out one verse, the last one, 39, in this whole process, 17 to 39. You will see half a dozen in one verse, half a dozen methods to do this self, not self, Atma and Atma separation. Very important. Without this, the next step, I am everything, I am Brahman, the whole universe in me, this will not make sense without this step. 39. If you want, you can repeat after me. Did you get 39? Verse number 39. Yes. 6 methods in one verse. Lingam chaneka sanyuktam, lingam chaneka sanyuktam, jalam drishyam vikaricha, jalam drishyam vikaricha, abhyapakam matadrupam, abhyapakam matadrupam, tatkatham syat pumanayam, tatkatham syat pumanayam. Here lingam means the subtle body. Here it's being applied to the mind only. Already the body has been dispensed with in the sense that I am not the body. But the mind, the personality, the inner person, intellect, memory, my whole personal narrative, am I that? It says, aneka sanyuktam. It's a composite of many. This is another technique which I have not mentioned. It's a composite of many. And what am I? One thing is common to all of us. We all each regard ourselves as one unit. Don't we regard ourselves as one? Who here regards himself or herself as a committee? Yes, as psychologists pointed out, people have multiple personality disorder. One person is many persons in them. But even those persons who have multiple personality disorder, at any time they are only one of those persons. You always regard yourself as one, not as many. But the mind is many. Thoughts and feelings and emotions and perceptions and desires and narratives. So many components, intellect, memory. There's a subconscious part to it. It's a composite of many. We never think of ourselves as a composite of many. So I am one. The mind is a composite. I cannot be the mind. This is the argument. You see, very interesting. Chalam. It's continuously moving. Actually here chalam means it is the one which transmigrates from body to body to body, from birth to death. So this is assuming multiple lives and all. Drishyam, we'll recognize it, object. It is seen. Drishyam means that it is seen. I am the seer. That technique which we did. Vikari, changing. We did that. Changing and unchanging. The mind is continuously changing. Avyapakam, very interesting, subtle point. I just mention it, see what you make of it. Two things are separate if one can exist without the other. What I mean by this is, this clock and its saffron color are not separate, because the saffron color couldn't exist by itself without the clock. But the clock and the cap are separate. If I dispense with the clock, the cap is still there. You can see them, experience them separately. Now, if I can experience myself without the mind, then I know that I am not the mind. That's the argument. Avyapakam means non-pervasive. There is an experience where there is no mind, yet you are there. What is that? Deep sleep. Deep sleep. Correct. When you recognize that deep sleep is an experience, within quotes, it's a kind of experience. It's not an experience mediated by the mind. That's why it feels like nothing. Because all our experience is through the mind. That's why when the mind shuts down, we feel there is nothing. But even that experience of nothing, I always say that deep sleep is not an absence of experience. It's an experience of absence. Avyapakam, mind is not there. And asad rupam, it's not real in itself apart from consciousness. I will not explain that. Half a dozen methods here. Self, not self. So what have we, if I sum up what we have done just now, I've gone into my time, yes, for Q&A. I am not the body, I am not the mind, because the body and mind are objects, drishya, seen. I am the seer. I am not the body-mind complex because they are insentient. I am sentient. I am not the body-mind complex because they are subject to change. I, on the other hand, am their unchanging experiencer. 3 and many more. What do you think? Oh, by the way, the next verse, that's why I went up to 39. 40 is a bombshell. It says, are you on board? Did you understand? Did you get it? And you say, yes. And Shankaracharya says, I take it all back. It's not real actually. What I said till now, I was pulling a fast one on you. Why we know? Because the self and the not self are actually not separate. The not self, world, body, mind, are none other than the self itself. So why would you go through all of this? Because without finding out the real self, that next step is not possible, where everything becomes yourself. So find out the real self, which is pure consciousness, pure being, then see how the non-self, that means the world and other things and other people and living beings and the body and our own mind, they are nothing other than appearances in Brahman, in Satchidananda. Questions?
Yes.
Yes.
How do you relate soul to the Atman, Brahman, and if that is true, that the true identity is that of the soul, then your body is nothing but a maya,
yes,
okay? And it will disappear in time and come again as a different body. And we don't have free will. You know, everything is preordained.
You're packing many questions into one question, so let's keep it simple.
Okay, I'll
all right, let's do the soul and Atman thing first. It's easily answered because the English word soul has distinct meanings. So it's an ambiguous word. For example, let me give you two sentences. Christianity, we talk about my immortal soul. When you're saying that, in the spiritual sense, it's the Atman. But when you say, he's a good soul, there you are talking about certain characteristics of the mind, of personality of that person, which is not the Atman. That part can change. Yeah. So the soul and the Atman are not literally the same, but one sense, the spiritual sense in which in say, mystical Christianity it is used, soul, that is the same as the Atman.
So our true identity is the soul.
Is the Atman sense of the soul, yes. Because the soul also means when you say good soul. So that those are characteristics, but that's one use of the word, English word. That's why you have to be very careful there. All right. The person at the back. Yes. Did you have?
Go ahead. If there are existing questions, those are them.
All right. Yes, the gentleman had been raising his hand.
Can you connect life to consciousness?
Life to consciousness. Prana to consciousness. All right. What is the connection of life and consciousness? The mainstream materialistic reductionist view in science is life is primary, consciousness is a byproduct, epiphenomenon. You know that some time, space, matter, energy are what is real. Some of that matter and energy have become living beings. And some of those living beings have generated consciousness in their living brains. And so that is the standard reductionist materialist point of view. Advaita Vedanta makes consciousness fundamental. Matter and life, those are, you can call evolutes or appearances in consciousness. Why are they appearances? Because we will say because of Maya and so on. Now, so very clearly Advaita Vedanta you can immediately apply. Prana, life. Is it the seer or the seen? Is it an object or the subject? Object. Life is always an object. What does the doctor study? When a doctor declares this patient is dead, looking for certain objective signs. When you are breathing, prana is also the breath. The whole mindfulness meditation, the whole industry will collapse if the breath is not an object. When you're breathing in, be aware that you're breathing in. When you're breathing out, be aware that you're breathing out. Good technique. But it means, Vedanta will take away from that, prana is an object. I am the subject. I am not the prana. That does not mean prana is not required. Without the prana, body will not survive. Without the prana, mind will also not work. But I am not prana. Apply the technique. This. Can you say this breath? Clearly? This life? Clearly? I just make one comment about it. So I have had arguments about this with scientists and philosophers. In New York we have what is called a philosophy cafe. And people come together to talk about philosophy, and it's a very interesting group. So one of the persons who guides this group is Massimo. He is a biologist, he is a philosopher and biologist at CUNY, City University of New York. Now he is a committed reductionist. Consciousness is nothing more than the living brain, and living brain is nothing more than part of a living body, and living body is nothing more than matter. That's it. Now we have argued a few times. His argument is this. He says there is no real problem of consciousness. He said, Swami, at one time, 100 years back, people were puzzled about the nature of life, what it is, and we felt that science can never explain life. But today, within 100 years, biology has progressed to such an extent, I can say confidently, we understand life down to its processes at a molecular level. So, the conclusion is, consciousness is also like that. I know we don't understand it at all right now, but give us time, 40, 50 years, and we will be able to explain consciousness in this way, the way we have explained life. Right now you are saying science cannot explain consciousness. 40, 50 years, this is called promissory materialism. I promise you I will explain, but you give me 40, 50 years. No, it's a real term. If you Google it, you will find it. Promissory materialism. Now, my point here is, it's an argument they give. Actually, they give this argument. Somebody asks, then can you create consciousness? Some people say artificial consciousness we can create in AI, but on that point he is against it. He says not necessarily. Just because you understand something does not mean you can replicate it. For example, he said we understand photosynthesis thoroughly down to molecular level, but we still can't do photosynthesis in the lab. So now my point is, and I told him this also, from a Vedantic perspective, you are making a big category mistake. It's very clear. What's the mistake? The mistake is this. You explain life, prana in our terms, in terms of complex molecular processes. Right? Life, object or not object? Object. Molecular processes, object or not object? Object. You have explained a complex objective process in terms of constituent, simpler objective processes. Entirely possible. In principle, there is no problem at all. You can work it out. Just requires research. But consciousness, the pure consciousness we are talking about, and life or molecular processes, they are not on the same page. Consciousness is in principle not an object. You're saying now I can explain consciousness which is not an object in terms of objective processes in the brain. Advaita Vedanta will say that you are making a category mistake. You are confusing two things who are entirely separate. Entirely separate, of course, at this step of our analysis. Next session I will say they are not separate. So this is my answer, and there is no answer to that answer. I will just say, as Swamiji was saying about matter, the mystery of matter. There is Galen Strawson, right here in Texas. I think he's in UT Austin probably. He's a philosopher, and I recently found out he's actually the son of P.F. Strawson, who was a great philosopher in I think Oxford in the 70s and 80s. Now Galen Strawson has written, you should read that article, The Hard Problem of Matter. Just Google it, Hard Problem of Matter, Strawson. What he says in that is slightly tongue-in-cheek, but he's a brilliant man. He says, consciousness, there is no hard problem of consciousness. You are saying that, why you think consciousness is a problem? And he's saying it from a very Vedantic perspective. He says, you think consciousness is a problem because you have made up your mind that matter is fundamental. Somehow, brain is producing consciousness. We don't understand how brain is producing consciousness. The link between a brain and consciousness we don't understand, and we are calling it hard problem of consciousness. But is that really so? When you look at consciousness, first of all, the thing which is obvious to us is we are conscious. And in your consciousness, matter is presented. Consciousness, there should be no problem about it, because consciousness is the most fundamental thing. First thing is, I am conscious, then I am conscious of matter. And then he goes on to say, it is matter which is the real mystery. As science goes on advancing, he says very evocatively, matter is disappearing before our eyes. We are finding no basis to it. From atoms to protons and electrons and neutrons to sub-nuclear particles to quarks to now they're talking about superstrings. It's not bottoming out. He says matter is disappearing before our eyes. Last question. Yes.
So, if I combine this both, and what I am understanding is that I am looking at a flower, I am not seeing, the mind is telling me it is yellow and it is that shade, but what I am experiencing is just that it is existing. So the attributes are just done by the mind. So what I normally experience is just the existence only. So I am actually not experiencing anything if the mind would be shut down.
And that does not require any theory. If you shut down the mind right now, in meditation or fall asleep, you won't experience anything. It will just blank out. So our experiences go along with the functioning of the mind. And a lot of details have to be worked out here. But this much is clear. There is no experience outside mind. And the mind also there is no proof of that outside consciousness. You exist and you shine. In your shining, everything else appears. The Kathopanishad says, that shining, everything else shines. By its light, everything is lit up. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Very beautiful poetry. Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. By its light, everything here is illumined. Replace its by I. I shining, everything else shines. So what do you mean? That's very, egotistic, solipsistic in philosophical language. But I'm saying, in your own personal experience, is that not so? Each of us, we can all say the same thing. And that's the way we experience the world. I shining, everything shines. By my light, by me the consciousness, everything is lit up. And that's the most fundamental aspect of our experience. This is where we have come till now. We have to need some lunch before we can go further. Prana. Thank you.
Thank you very much.